Hello. Welcome to the Front Range Front End Meetup. I am really excited to be here today to give a talk on design for developers. So I'd like to take a moment just to introduce myself and then kind of show you what we're kind of going to be talking about today, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Cameron Carruthers, and I am an associate software engineer at Goodway Group, which is a company that does digital marketing. And actually, let me turn. Front Range, front end. Sorry, my chat. Or I have the on my phone. I have the chat that I'm going to be looking at for comments, but it was making noise, so I could hear myself. So anyway, so I am an associate software engineer at Goodway Group, which is a company that specializes in digital marketing. And I am a pretty recent career transitioner into software engineering. In a past life, I was a piano teacher for 12 years. So as I was kind of learning web development, I remember looking at all these beautiful websites and thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to get to make those, and what I found was that I did get to make them function, but I really wanted to make them look good, and that was not something that I really learned in any of the online courses I took or the immersive that I went to. That was kind of just design was not something that was touched on at all in my learning experience. So I kind of, ended up with projects that I was working on that didn't look that great, and I really wanted them to. I wanted to feel proud of what I had done because they looked good and not just because they functioned well. So I kind of set out on a journey to try to teach myself just some design basics, which turned out to be quite a bit more complicated than I was originally thinking, because I figured, with coding, you can get on Codecademy and learn the basics, which is all I was kind of looking for. But it didn't really feel like there was the same kind of resources for design. But I did eventually find things, mostly paid resources, but less than what I had originally, when I first started looking, all I was seeing was these 3-month certificates or $500 a month for these online courses, which is great if you're a designer. But I was just a developer who wanted to learn the basics, so I'll show you right here, and if I have time, I'll give you kind of a review of this at the end too. But these are kind of some of the resources that I did find. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is pretty much just kind of a condensed version of what I learned through these resources. So I'm kind of hoping to just give you a quick start to being able to design your own side projects and that kind of thing. So I'm not a designer, so I'll answer whatever questions I can, but some of the more detailed questions you would want to ask a designer. But I do feel like I've been in that place of just really wanting the basics, and a lot of the resources when I first looked at them were pretty kind of they went really in deep with the theory and didn't teach a lot about how to actually do it. So today we're going to kind of do a pretty bird's eye level of, I'm mostly going to just talk about the theory that actually can help you get started. So there's a lot that we're not going into. Some of these courses can go a little more in detail. So if I have time at the end, like I said, I will kind of give you a little bit of a review on those if we have time. So basically the way that I kind of have the course structure today is this what you see up here is this is Figma, which is a design tool, and it is a free tool at the beginning stages. So it's one of the best ones for learning if you're don't have a company that's going to be paying for it. And some of the other ones like Sketch cost money. So I highly recommend Figma. And so I'll just kind of give you an overview of the tools and how to use them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create kind of just a basic design system that you can use. So we'll kind of create a color palette here, topography and we'll create some button components. And then we will also try to kind of just design one page of like this is like a product page for an app. I wanted to give us like a chance to actually design things as well. So we'll see. I was originally going to have us do kind of like this right here, like is going to be a full design, a mock-up. I was going to have us do a wireframe too, but when I timed myself, it was a little too long of a talk. So I'm cutting that out for now, and we'll see if we have time at the end for more. But so that's kind of the overview. Feel free to leave questions in the chat. Let me just take a look and see. Okay, yeah, even with it stopped, I should be able to still see it. So I'll try to check the chat after each like major section that we do. So feel free to leave comments as we go, and if I notice, I'll kind of stop and look in the middle as well. So and then I will also I have like over here for pages, I have like a final version, and I also have a template. So I will actually post this link in the Front Range Front End Meetup in like the comments or whatever. I'll do that within 24 hours so that you can actually use this if you want. Like you can look at the final version and also kind of use the template. So yeah, that's kind of where we're going with it. And like I said, I'll answer whatever questions I can, but like I'm not a designer, so I might not have an answer. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started then. So let's start with the color palette. So today we're just going to talk about the color wheel. There's a lot more color theory you can go into about like how our eyes view color and the difference between like the color online versus color in print. Those can be different, and that can be important if you're trying to do branding between the two. But today we're just going to talk about kind of coming up with a color palette pretty quickly so you can design your own sites. So there's like a couple different color palettes that you can come up with fairly quickly. So we're just going to pick one of these colors over here. So let's pick like this blue right here. So basically by looking at the color wheel, you can come up with a color palette pretty fast. So we could pick with this blue, we could just design an entire site just in that blue color, but different shades of it. So that's called monochromatic. That is probably the safest place to start. It's a lot easier to not have anything clashing. But, it can be harder to make it interesting, to kind of have different sections of the website have different looks, or like have, a button stand out. If it's a call to action button, that can be a little difficult if it's all the same shade, shades of the same color. But it is easier. And then we can do complementary. So that would be like the two across the way like this. So that provides some nice contrast. So that's a 2-color palette. Probably the second easiest. Then we could do complementary, sorry, not complementary, I just said that. It is called analogous. So that's this one and this one. So those are the two that are right next to the color that you're picking as your primary color. And then the final really common one we can do is called tertiary. So this is instead of like right across the way, this is, I'm going to try to make it bigger. Okay, I'm going to try to zoom in on these so that you can see them a little better. So though I don't know if I'll be able to do anything about like the side things. But for now we'll stick with this. Okay, so let me review that really quick since you can see it better. So this one right here would be like if you had shades of that would be the monochromatic. Across the way is complementary. The 3 right next to each other is analogous. And then the last one is spaced evenly across the color wheel. And that is tertiary. So those are the most common ones. And I'll show you a tool that will do all this for you. I just wanted to kind of give you a visual of it really quick. But there's a tool that you can use. It's called, and I put these tools right here too, the Material Design Color Picker. So we're gonna really quick switch over to Chrome, and it has something else up right now, but okay, so I'll zoom in on this one too. Okay. So this kind of, you can see this lists out all of the terms I was just talking about. So we have our primary color, and we've got lots of different shades. So they don't say this is monochromatic, but that would be, different shades would be monochromatic. Then we've got complementary. So if you did that one, you'd have the primary and the complementary like that. Then we've got analogous here. So then we'd have the primary and then these two colors, so that'd be a 3-color palette. And then down here we've got our triadic, so we could do this one and then these two right there. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. So you can put in your color right here, your hex code. So like you could go down here and pick, let's see, let's pick something different. We'll do this like teal color. So you could pick this and paste that in, and actually this is not that different than the one we're gonna do, so it would just kind of generate all these for you. And some bigger design systems, you can actually use all of what's, I shouldn't say all of it because you're gonna probably pick one color palette, but you could actually put in like red dot 50, red dot 100, red dot 200, red dot 300. Like some design systems are set up that way. So if you need that many like options, that can be a great thing to do. But if you're just designing something small, usually you can just pick 3, you know, like a light one, kind of a medium, and then a darker one. And then you can always come back to this if you feel like you need more and grab some more. So let's go ahead and switch back to Figma. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you, I don't want to keep switching back and forth between Chrome and this over and over again, so I'm going to actually copy the final version for this. Most of it we'll try to build, but so what I actually did was I wanted to use these colors in this picture. So that's just one way you can do it. You can also just pick it kind of arbitrarily, like a color you like. But basically, we're gonna pick this as primary light. What I did was I grabbed this fill right here, and I just realized I need to give you the Figma tutorial. I totally skipped that. But we can do the dropper tool right here, and we can grab like a color here, and then I put that in. Well, let's come back to colors in just a second. I actually want to give you a quick tour of Figma. This might be something where I'm going to see if I can make the actual, I don't know if I want to cover, I'm going to make my face a little smaller and make the screen bigger. Okay, so this might, I don't know how good that looks, but I don't know how much that helped, but I just want to see if we can help you see the sidebars a little bit. Okay, so I'll try to explain it all too. So basically up at the top, we're just going to go over the things we're going to need today. There's a lot more to Figma. But up at the top here, we have, you can change between move or scale. So like if I was going to scale this picture and I wanted to keep the aspect ratio, I could do scale. Then we've got next to it, we've got frames. And that's where you can make these white frames. It also is where you can make screens. So over here on the right, if you can't see it, okay, sorry, I'm getting text to see if we can increase it. Command plus. Okay, so that increases like the inside, but it doesn't increase the, because what I'd like is to like have you guys be able to see the like actual sidebars better. Yeah. So maybe for now, I don't know, like, I think that we're gonna either be stuck with that unless, I think what I might do really quick is just, I'm just gonna make this cover my face real quick, just to give you the best chance of seeing it, and then I'll move it back, because we're just gonna spend time on the sidebars for a second. And I'll try to zoom in on the actual Figma things when we're doing them, or the like, you know, this part of the main part of the board. Okay, so so right here you can see we've got our frame, and then we can also create I'll delete this one. We can go over to the frame again, and we can create one that, like iPhone 11 Pro, you can do phones or desktops. So you'll see we're designing on this on the other side. So that's kind of how you do that. Then there's this little shape tool that you can make, you know, different shapes like circles and rectangles. And then the other one that's kind of important over here is just this text tool. It says a T, and you can write with that one, like that. So, okay. Then on the right side, so I'll click on one of these to kind of let it zoom in a little bit. So on this right side, the right side is basically just like kind of the things that you would see in CSS, right? So we've got X, Y, so that's going to be like how far it is on the X and Y axis. W is width, H is height. We've got a little rotation thing, corner radius, and we'll skip constraints for now and layer. Fill is where you change the color. Stroke, you can add an outline. Effects is like drop shadow and that kind of thing. And then export is kind of cool. Export, you can actually export like pictures as like this color wheel. We could export this as an SVG or a PNG or that kind of thing. So you can actually modify SVGs in Figma and then export them. So that's kind of cool. And then I also wanted to show you over here on the right side, the inspect tool will actually give you the CSS as well. So it gives you more than you need. Like it gives you like the top and left and things like that. So you definitely don't just copy and paste it, like look at it, but it can make your CSS a lot faster if you design here first. Okay, so now we'll zoom in pretty far, and I'll go back and see if I can let you guys see me again. Okay. All right, so that's not perfect, but okay, so I'll just try to zoom in as far as I can. Okay, so so you can kind of see I have this set up as like primary light, primary dark. So this is kind of just making a system so that you can use these colors again throughout your you know, app that you're working on. So basically a design system, the benefit of it is you know, kind of it's the design version of dry, right? Like don't repeat yourself. So you kind of want to design it once and then use those throughout when you're designing. And then when you're coding it, you want to kind of code these, like you could have like a colors file, and then you could export each of these, like primary light, primary dark, whatever you want to color them or call them. And then what's nice about that is you can, if you ended up wanting to change the colors of your site, you could just go change them in that one place, right? And it changes everywhere. So, you know, that's kind of the benefit of doing it this way. So I am going to grab, let's see, I don't know why it's not showing the other files. Oh, there we go. I'm going to just grab this final version so we don't have to switch back and forth with Chrome. So before we do that, there is one more thing I want to show you. So when, oh, this is the wrong one, in progress. So this is already going to be set because it kind of had to be. Oh, Command Option plus, does that do it? Oh, yay, okay. All right, we found it. Okay, so I'll make it really big. Okay, so you can kind of see up here at the top, this is what I was talking about. We have like the move and scale tool. We have the frame, and that was where we made the different, like the white square. Then we have text right here. And then over here for our design, we've got like the X and Y axis, width and height, rotation. Let's see if I can get, corner radius is not showing up because it's a circle, I think. Let's do this one. So you can see corner radius. We'll cover auto layout in a second. Fill is the color, stroke is the outline, and then effects is like drop shadow. So really knowing CSS, you already kind of know all of that. So yeah, I'm glad we got to make that bigger. Okay, so this is perfect timing too, because I wanted to show you how to set these so that they can be reusable. Basically you can click on this color right here, and you can make a color style. So you click these 4 little dots right here. Let me see if the command one more time. Command Option plus. Command Option plus. Okay, so now it's really big. So you can click on these 4 little dots, and see I already set a lot of these because since I have the final version, like it goes through all the pages get these styles, which is really helpful normally. But so I already have primary light set, but if I wanted to set it again, I would just click this add button, and I would call this primary light. So you can put all of your styles in like that, and then you kind of have a little color design system right there. So that's how I would do that. Okay, we'll make it just a little smaller so I can. Okay, so let's paste this in. So when I chose this from the color wheel, but it just so happens, and you'll see this all over the place once you know about these color theories, but it just so happens that these two, the pink and the blue, are tertiary colors, or close to. So it made pretty easy to use the tertiary color scheme. So that's what I kind of did for this. So you can kind of see we picked primary light, primary dark, and then same with secondary and tertiary. So that kind of gives you a good place to start. And now we've got this beautiful set of colors right here that we can use throughout our app when we design it. All right, so let's go on to topography. So topography is also, let's see if I can make this. I'm going to make everything a little smaller. Okay. Hopefully I'm getting the balance right on whether you guys can see this. So topography is a very complicated field, I figured out. So I was very surprised at like how complicated it was. So I'm not going to go like super in depth with all the terminology and all of that. We're just going to kind of talk about like the most important things. So there's basically 2 main types of fonts. Serif, you may have heard of these. Serif and sans serif, right? And then I'm also going to actually add 2 more. There's also mono-spaced, and I'm also going to do like a decorative font. We'll talk about that a little bit too. So serif is kind of like Times New Roman. Let's see if I can show you. So it has those little like decorative edges, right? Like underneath the words. Those are called serifs. The little edges are called serifs, and so the font is called serif. So sans serif does not have those edges, you can kind of see. So they look really different. I want to talk about these 2 are the most important ones, so I'm going to talk about them for just a second. So serif fonts, interestingly enough, were actually more readable in print. So like if you were reading a newspaper, and that's why they did those serifs. But on the web, it's actually opposite. And I don't know if you can even just sort of tell here that this one is actually more readable on the web. So it's sort of funny because I figured out that print is, the way that they choose their fonts is kind of opposite. So they will do like the body of their like newspaper or whatever is going to be serif. And then if they want contrast, they're going to make the header be sans serif. On the web, we want our body to be sans serif. We really want that to be readable. So the header could be serif. Really, with headers, you can kind of just be a little more flexible. You want your body typically to be sans serif, but your headers could actually still be the same sans serif. You could just have one font, and that's probably where I'd recommend starting. That's like the easiest way to make it look good. But if you want some interest, you can make your headers serif, and that'll provide some contrast. You can also do like a decorative font, and we're actually going to do one of these if we get to the design part. So you can also do something like this for a header. You just want to be really careful that it's readable when you're doing decorative fonts. But decorative don't necessarily fall in either serif or sans serif. And then monospaced is, I think Roboto is monospaced, maybe. Monospaced is like evenly spaced across, so like code would be monospaced. I know I've seen websites done in that, but I don't really know that much about it. So we're just going to use the other three today. And I just realized I did not check in between the colors and the typography. Okay, so is this tool spelled Figma? Yeah, F-I-G-M-A. The font is kind of difficult to read. So I'm kind of curious, like, which one, if that's like one of the other ones I was doing earlier, if that's the typography one. I'll come back to this, but Cindy, I'm curious which one you're finding is hard to read. Maybe the decorative. So anyway, I'll come back and check on that. But okay, so let's get rid of these. And then the other thing we're going to talk about typography really quick is how to, or kind of like hierarchy. So you kind of want a consistent hierarchy when you're designing typography. So you want like your header 1 to be the biggest, and then header 2, and then header 3. So kind of figuring out like how far to space them can be a little difficult. So there's like, basically with the different like resources that I use, there's a lot of different like every different resource I think had a different way of doing this. So this is not the way we're going to use, but I do want to show you one tool you can use. So let's switch over to Chrome real quick. So this is Typescale.com, and this basically, like, you can put in, and this is kind of funny for me as a music teacher, they're using music terms here. So they have like a scale of 1.250, they're calling a major third, but you can basically change these and it changes the scale. So this can be kind of an easy way to just have like a quick scale to use. And it gives you a little bit of like a tool down here too. I guess I should try to zoom in. So it says small scales less than 1.2 are subtle and good for both mobile and desktop apps, or the mobile version of a responsive site. And then medium scales, can be used for bigger. And I think that's kind of an interesting point too, because from what I read, you want to have a more subtle scale on mobile than on desktop. So they're not going to be the exact same. You really want to have like one for mobile and one for desktop. So we won't do that today, but just kind of recognize that. So this is one way to do it. I think, what's kind of hard about this is you end up with really weird sizes, like 39.06, 2.441 rem. I'm not sure if when people use this, if they round them, that'd be my guess. But anyway, so that's one way to do it. Another way that I saw was, and we'll switch back real quick to Figma. So another way that I saw was an 8-point scale. And what I kind of have here, this is from Designing User Interfaces book, but they recommended using this for spacing as well. So you can take 8 pixels and then just kind of each new level is going to be 8 pixels bigger than the one before it. So this is something you can use both for like how you space things and for your topography. And I kind of liked that version because it's very easily divided, like for like if you're using REM or something, right? Like you can divide everything by 16 pixels. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today, but there are a lot of different systems for, you know, giving yourself a hierarchy. The important part is to have one. We're going to start with, let's just start by putting in, so I'm just going to call these like H1. Let's change font real quick. Okay, so we're going to change to, let's just do RL for now. Oh, I lost it. Okay, so we're going to do like H1. So I'm going to start with 32 pixels. And then regular. So this is just like one way that you can do it. You can just kind of say what they are. And then we'll put these in as text styles, kind of like the color styles. So let me zoom up really big on that. So I'm just going to move these down. So okay, so let's actually make these the size they say. So we'll make this 32. And then the next one, I did 8 down, so that was 24. We'll do that as an H2. And then we'll do this one as an H3. And I think that this one I actually made 16 pixels, but I made it bold. So you can establish hierarchy by sizing, but you can also do it by font weight and by color as well. And then we'll also do just our body text. We'll do 16 pixels regular. Okay, so that kind of gives us like a nice hierarchy to start with. And then again, these are already in there, but what you can do then is add them. Is it? Yeah, it's Command Option Plus. There we go. You can add them right here, text styles, and then you can add one like right here. So that's how you add them in, and so you can see I already have them here and right here. So so I actually I'm gonna try we're actually gonna make this one so basically at this point, like, we have kind of our scale, right? So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick the fonts for them, right? So what's kind of cool that you can do is you can find font pairings through Google Fonts. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna switch back over to Chrome. Okay, and we're gonna go to Google Fonts. I'm just gonna check this again. Oh, okay, the comment about the font being difficult to read was from well before you were able to zoom in. Okay, good. I wasn't sure what that was referring to, so. Okay, so what I wanted to show you really quick is that if you click on these fonts, there's a tab right here called Pairings. So you can kind of go down here and it will actually show you good pairings for your fonts. So I think that this was just super, super helpful for me to, you know, I think I'm kind of at the point where I can tell if something like, oh, well, that looks great. And I can sometimes tell, oh, that looks bad. But it's hard for me to like actually like figure out, well, what would go well with this font? So Google Fonts is a super easy way to do that as a developer. So let me go back. So I actually am gonna try, since we kind of have like a really flowery picture, I do want to try a decorative font for this. So I'm gonna do this Sophia one right here. And we're just gonna use this for the main header because it's obviously not super readable for body. But I wanted to show you kind of the pairings here. So actually what's sort of funny about this is that these pairings changed since I first came up with the pairing. So they have some good pairings here, but I actually, one of the ones they had was open sans, so we're gonna use that one. But you can kind of see that like they look, you know, it really helps to be able to see these back to back like this. And I should say using a decorative font is more risky and probably not the best place to start, but okay, so we're gonna go back to Figma. So I'm gonna make this one the Sophia font. And then we're gonna make this one open sans. And these are the ones that are already set as styles too. Okay, so that's what we're gonna leave the typography as for now. We'll see about that top header, whether that ends up being readable or not. But I do want to move on to buttons. Buttons are gonna kind of let us use some other new things in Figma, which is kind of fun. So we're gonna start with, here I've got kind of like a setup where we have a primary, secondary, and tertiary button, and then a primary outline. There's no way we're gonna need this much for this one page, but this kind of just shows you how you could come up with more than one if you wanted to. And then we also have like a default hover and disabled state. We'll see how far we get with it, but so what I'm gonna show you here is, this actually isn't the best place to show. Let's actually try something. Let's actually start on this mock-up over here really quick, because I want to show you the auto layout tool, how it's typically used first before we do something weird. So I'm gonna call this like the Sophia dress. I think I called it Azalea dress. So this is the only part I'm gonna be using with this fancy font. So it just gives some interest. I don't know. I definitely could be better to do something that's a little more readable. But and then I'm going to set this. I put in Sophia, but I actually want to choose the right, like what we put in here, so we can use it kind of as a style guide. That's not the word I'm looking for, but design system. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so then we're going to add in the price, and I'm going to do this one at as the H2. So we kind of have a little bit of hierarchy there. One thing I don't think I said is that I didn't explain this, but if you click Option and then move over, it'll show you how far away it is from the edge. So I'm giving 32 margin here, and then I'm going to do it here, and then I can actually click the arrows to make it the right distance. So the other way that you can do it is like in the designing user interfaces, they recommended that you just grab these red squares and to see how far things are. But I like using Option a lot too. So, okay, I'm going to show you with this how to do auto layout. So auto layout is basically really similar to Flexbox. So you can put these two, you basically take one, click Shift, and click the other one. And then we go to this auto layout right here, and it's automatically going to align it a certain way, kind of like Flexbox does. So this, you can kind of see, it is pretty similar to Flexbox. And I think when you go over to the Inspect tab, it actually even calls it Flexbox. You can do it horizontally, like row, and you can also do it in a column like that. So we can then also right here we can choose like where we want it aligned. So I'm going to align it in the center like that. So that's auto layout. It's super helpful for just quickly getting your designs kind of in the order that you want them to be in. So I wanted to show you it that way first because this is kind of a more unusual way to use it. But for buttons, you could just make a rectangle and then stick text on it. But then if you ever want to change the words on it, like it doesn't make a great design system because you have to like readjust the size. So this is something you can also use auto layout for. So we're just gonna write like an add to cart. Let's change this. And I don't think this one I actually made a part of the topography, but you could. Okay, so we'll do 24 and we'll go to open sans. So again, I'm not a designer, so some of this might not be as good as it could be, but hopefully it gives you a good starting place. Okay, so we've got our add to cart, and so what I can do actually is add auto layout to this. It won't show up on the side because it only shows that if you've got more than one element, but you can do a shortcut to auto layout by doing Shift A. So now we've got auto layout. So what's kind of the different way to use this is you can actually click, well, we've got padding right here too, but it would have to be like all equal. But you can click over here on alignment and padding. So we are going to put like on the top padding, we're going to use our same system of the 8 pixels system. So we could do 8 pixels if we wanted, but I'm going to do 16. But what you want, one way to get a good proportion to start off with, you can mess with this, but is to make the sides twice as big as the top and bottom. So you can kind of see that. And then what we'll do is we'll fill it. I'm going to fill it with the primary color. And then 8 pixels is a really good border radius for buttons because you can do more than that, but sometimes if you do a lot of border radius, it can make it hard to tell whether it aligns with the text above it. So 8 pixels is kind of a safe place to start. And then we are going to make this white. If I have time, I'll also show you how to check the contrast. There is a tool in Figma you can use to tell whether this is meets the like accessibility standards as well for color contrast. But it will be better actually once we add a gradient. So we're also going to add a gradient. So the nice thing about gradients, especially for buttons, is that they feel they make it feel more natural, which is kind of one of the things that can be nice for users because it's nice to have the web feel like something they're used to in their day-to-day life. So gradients feel very natural because usually things do have kind of like some dimension to them. And, you know, when the sun is shining or the lights are coming, like nothing is ever one shade, you know, like even when I'm looking around my room, like there's, you know, different shades from shadows and all that. So gradients can provide a very like helpful natural feel. So I'll show you an easy way you can do this pretty safely. So I'm going to detach the style. Let's see if I can show this to you bigger. So right here we've got like this little detached style. This is what you do if you want to modify the color style that you already had. So it's no longer connected now to that color style because we're going to do something different with it. So I'm going to click right here on the fill, and it's coming up with, you know, the color that we have. And I'm going to change this up here to linear gradient. So what I can do, oops, that's not what I want. Let's see, can I move this down? Maybe I just have to make it a little smaller. Okay, there we go. So let's make this 100%, so they're going to be even for now. So one thing that I saw in one of the books that can make a pretty, did that work? I don't know why it's like still white. Hold on just a second. Like it's showing the same color. Okay, let's see if we can get it to reboot itself. Okay, and we'll go over to this one. All right, well, hopefully it changes when we change the next part. So anyway, they should both be the same opacity. And then what we can do is actually change the, if we change it to hue, saturation, brightness, I already had it on that, but normally it'll start on hex. We can actually change the hue to 15 to 30, either greater or less, to make kind of a nice gradient. So I won't go too much into like the theory behind hue, saturation, or brightness or anything, but we're just gonna make it this one 15 greater. So let's see, I'm gonna go 10 up first, so we'll go 208, and then it's not looking promising. Okay, so I have no idea. Oh, is there another one here? No. Okay, so there was an extra. There can be extras of these. I have no idea why there was though. Okay, so let's exit out of that. We got it to work. Okay, so this is a good, you can kind of see how that makes a pretty natural looking gradient. You want the light to be on the top. That's gonna look the most natural, like the sun is shining. You can though, if you want to make it a little more interesting, this is totally fine to have it vertical or horizontal, vertical. Yeah, vertical like that. But you can also make it diagonal, which can be kind of, make it a little more interesting looking. So I can drag this to the corner and then drag this one to the corner. And that's another way that you can make a good gradient. So there's our button. And then what we can do is add a shadow to also kind of make it pop out from the page a little bit. So I am going to add an effect right here. So let's see, yeah, we click this plus sign. And so with shadows, you want them to not be too dark. It already started with a pretty nice gray, but if it's too dark, it'll stand out and be too stark. So you want them to blur a lot. So one actually kind of common thing that's happening in the industry today is they are using like a really dark version of the color instead. This won't look good yet, but I'm gonna actually pick our dark color of the primary version. So you can actually use like a dark version of the same color and it will look a little more natural. So we've got our X shadow here. So that kind of brings it out on the X side, and then we're gonna do Y at 2 as well. And another way to make things look more natural is to have a higher blur. So you can see it starting to look a little more natural. And then we can also do this spread thing. We have to clip content first, I don't know why. But I'm gonna put that at -2. And I think that just kind of brings it in a little bit. All right, so that's kind of just like a real basic button gradient. And then what we'll do in Figma here is, since this is a more complex item, we don't like have color or text styles for it, we're actually gonna make it into a component. So this is something kind of important I wanted to show you. So you can click, right click, and then go to create component. And it'll make these like little diamond shapes on the left. And I could name this if I wanted, like primary. Though you might not want to do that if you're going to make the other buttons off of that primary, but because that's what I'm going to do right now. So what's kind of nice about this is you can duplicate it, and I could change this to like a different color. So we could change it to secondary, like that. We won't do the gradient right now. But what's nice is like it retains, like this is still the component up here. So we can actually change the you know, what it says, and the secondary will follow. So this is another reason why like it's better to use auto layout for this than to just use rectangle with words on it. Is, you know, see how it's automatically resizing, so it's just really great for a design system. So I think that we're pretty close to out of time. I'm going to look at questions. So we won't have time to actually do, I can show you the design though really quick. In progress. No? Yeah. So this is kind of like, and like again, I was going to design more buttons, but you really, with one screen, you're not going to do much. So yeah, so this is kind of what we were going to do. This is kind of using the H3, and then these are actually components. So I did one, and then the other ones, I'll zoom in, but the other ones you can use that same component from and just change the middle. And actually I brought these into, what's best is to have a separate thing for components and change them there, not like in the design. And then we have the 3 colors, and then we've got our add to cart button. So I think that's like pretty much it. You can see what I was gonna do with the buttons down here. So you can, I think I changed the brightness. Oh no, I know what, I think I put like an extra layer with opacity, like for these is what I did to create these. So you can actually add multiple layers in Figma. So I put like, I decreased the opacity of this one and put black underneath it for this one and white underneath it for the disabled. But anyway, so this is a little more, you can see like having more buttons for your design system. I think that for a small project, you probably don't need a primary, secondary, and tertiary. And really, I probably in this would cut out the tertiary altogether. Like we really only used it for this color, and you don't need a whole extra color for that. But so yeah, that is, I hope that like, I felt like that was definitely pretty fast. But I hope that gave you kind of like a good starting place. Let me just take a couple questions. And I know there's a delay too. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat as well. So I guess while I'm waiting for questions, I'll just kind of keep this up. But I'll just talk really quick about some of these tools. So this top one, designing user interfaces, that is the one that I felt like was the most comprehensive book. So it talked about kind of like some of the theory basics, but it also like goes through like the stuff I was talking about, buttons, like making the sides twice as long as the top and bottom. Like it goes through kind of like every single thing, like cards, buttons, icons, like pretty much everything, and like how to make it look good. So I thought this was the best book that balanced like the theory with the practical. Designed for hackers, more theory-based, but definitely good if you want to dive into more of that. Refactoring Ui is the only one on here that I haven't read, but I've heard that one's really good, so I wanted to put it on here. But Refactoring UI is another book. And then these are some paid courses. The UI Design for Developers course is, that one is kind of the opposite. It doesn't really talk about theory at all, and he just kind of like designs stuff in front of you. I think there's more than one actually now. They just kind of design things right there, and they don't really explain it. So that was my first resource, and I was a little lost, but I think that it's still really good for kind of just like seeing a designer do what they do. So I still would recommend that one. And then if you have front-end masters, it might not be worth it if you don't, but if you already have front-end masters, there's a couple good stuff on courses on those. I thought both of those are pretty good. Design systems with React and Storybook like actually codes the designs, like you code them in React after creating them in Figma, and then you document them in Storybook. I really liked that one. And then there's also Design for Developers. And then this 1 week Figma prototype, that one's if you want to like learn how to make a clickable prototype, which you can also do in Figma. And they also go into some design stuff too. So yeah, there's the other tools we mentioned today. Dribble is great for inspiration. And then if you want something free, the one of the people who wrote Designing User Interfaces has a YouTube channel that has some good free resources. So yeah, I think I saw a question. Is there an easy way to take what you have done in Figma and export it in code? Yes. So that is this inspect right here, and I think I probably showed it to you before it was big. So I'm glad that we brought this up. So you can click this inspect right here, and I guess it's not really exporting, it would be copy pasting, but this is like your CSS right here. So you can like click on each component. Sorry, my alarm is going off. So you can click on each component, like I'll click on this text right here, and it will tell you like, here's the font family, font style, font weight, font size, line height, and color, and you can copy and paste that into whatever you're using. So yeah, it's the inspect file. And then do you use any of the Figma plugins? So I think so far the main one I've used is that like I don't know if plugins. Yeah, is this Stark one. This is the one that checks the contrast for you. So yeah, I know there are a lot of great Figma plugins. I mostly spent time learning like kind of just the basics, but I don't think this is gonna work on a gradient. But you can check. I don't even know where it's supposed to show up. Anyway, you can use the Stark plugin right here to check your color contrast to make sure it's accessible. So that's the only plugin I think I've used so far, but there are a lot of them, so yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. And then I see Franco said, thank you, this was a very handy starting place. Good, awesome, I'm really glad that it was like, this is kind of what I wish that I had when I was first starting out. So obviously there's like so much more to it than this, but I hope that like for those of you who haven't had any type of system to use, that this kind of gives you some place to get started. So, all right, I think that is our time. So thank you all again for coming, and yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I think that was listed. So I'd love to connect with any of you that want to connect as well. So, all right, well, I hope you all have a really great night.